Part 1. The Clever Jackal and the Foolish Donkey. This is a short bedtime story of an aged lion who had a clever jackal for a servant. The jackal was also a bit old, and he was only happy to be the lion's servant. Whenever the lion killed an animal, he would first have his fill and leave the rest for the wily jackal. It so happened that one day the lion was very hungry and attacked a huge king elephant. The tusker got angry and injured the lion so bad that he could barely walk. Since the lion could not hunt, both the jackal were starving. The lion asked the jackal to use his wile to try and trap some animal. The lion told the jackal, "Use your wile and bring me an unsuspecting animal that I could kill without much effort. Otherwise we would die starving." The clever jackal thought for a while and came up with an idea. He slowly got up to search for an unsuspecting animal. He came across many animals, but it was obvious that his master, the lion, would be unable to kill them. They were either too fast, and some of them were even stronger than his master in his present condition. Finally, he saw a donkey grazing by the side of the river. The river was almost arid, and the grass was mostly dry. It was evident the donkey was hungry. The wily jackal was thrilled. He thought, "This jack is precisely the animal that I need." He quietly walked toward the donkey and greeted him. He said, "Dear sir, you look tired and worried. Is there anything wrong? Can I help you in any way?" The donkey replied, "I am hungry and have not eaten for a few days." The wily jackal quickly sympathized with him and said, "Oh, that's terrible. Why don't you come with me to the forest? The grass is green and there is a river next to my cave. You also don't have to worry about any wild animals, because my cave is far from where the wild animals live. Besides, the smaller animals that live beside the river are very friendly." The foolish donkey thought for a while and looked a bit apprehensive. The wily jackal cautiously said, "Your master will not find our place. There are also many animals of your kind living there. There are she-donkeys, jennies, there, who haven't seen a male donkey. Jack," the lovesick Jack immediately said, "Come on, I have heard enough. Lead me to your place and let me meet my new friends." Together they left for the hungry lion's den. The lion saw them approaching and was happy that he had a clever jackal for a servant. As a result, the moment they reached close to the den, the hungry lion leaped at the donkey. The lion, out of haste, missed his target, landed on some rocks, and further hurt himself. The terrified donkey took to his heels. The jackal was angry and swore at the lion. "Impatient fool, couldn't he have waited a bit longer?" However, the lion replied regretfully, "I was so hungry that I got desperate. I did not expect that you would return so quickly. I apologize." The jackal shouted at the lion, "You couldn't kill a foolish donkey. How did you ever think of attacking a king elephant? Not to worry, I will bring him back, but be prepared this time," said the wily jackal. The lion was shocked and said, "How are you going to bring him back? He would have reached his home by now." The jackal said, "Leave that to me and don't act hasty." He then left in search of the donkey. He found him next to the river drinking. He was still breathing hard as he left the place so fast. He said, "You are nothing but a scheming, wily jackal. If I had not bent down, I would have been dead by now." The clever jackal started laughing so hard. "What are you laughing at?" asked the donkey. The jackal curbed his laughter and said, "My dear sir, that was a she-donkey. She has been lovesick for some time now. She could not believe when she saw you walking up the hill and wanted you for herself. She sprang to hug you, but you fled. I told her that you were a shy person and she should not have acted in haste." The foolish donkey could not believe what he just heard. "Come on, let's not waste any time. They are all waiting for you," said the wily jackal. "All right, if you say so." "Lead the way, brother jackal," said the donkey. The lion was shocked to see the clever jackal and the foolish donkey return. However, this time the lion did not make any mistake. He waited until the donkey reached his cave and quickly finished him. The lion then went to freshen up before his meal and asked the jackal to keep watch. The clever jackal was ravenous and had other plans. He quickly ate the heart and ears of the donkey before the lion returned. The lion returned and was furious to note that the best parts were missing. He shouted at the jackal, "Where are the other parts? Who ate them while I was away?" The jackal remained calm and said, "Do you think that this foolish donkey had these parts? If he had them, do you think he would have ever returned?" The lion did not bother to further question the clever jackal, as he was ravenous, and quickly began eating. Moral: if you can hold your head in the face of disasters, then you would be able to defeat them. Part 2. The Child's Story. Once upon a time, a good many years ago, there was a traveler, and he set out upon a journey. It was a magic journey, and was to seem very long when he began it, and very short when he got halfway through. He traveled along a rather dark path for some little time, without meeting anything, until at last he came to a beautiful child. So he said to the child, "What do you do here?" And the child said, "I'm always at play. Come and play with me." So he played with that child the whole day long, and they were very merry. The sky was so blue, the sun was so bright, the water was so sparkling, the leaves were so green, the flowers were so lovely, and they heard such singing birds and saw so many butterflies that everything was beautiful. This was in fine weather. When it rained, they loved to watch the falling drops and to smell the fresh scents. When it blew, it was delightful to listen to the wind and fancy what it said as it came rushing from its home. Where was that? They wondered, whistling and howling, driving the clouds before it, bending the trees, rumbling in the chimneys, shaking the house, and making the sea roar in fury. But when it snowed, that was best of all, for they liked nothing so well as to look up at the white flakes falling fast and thick, like down from the breasts of millions of white birds, and to see how smooth and deep the drift was, and to listen to the hush upon the paths and roads. They had plenty of the finest toys in the world, and the most astonishing picture books, all about scimitars and slippers and turbans, and dwarfs and giants and genii and fairies, and blue beards and bean stalks, and riches and caverns, and forests and valentines and horses, and all new and all true. But one day, of a sudden, the traveler lost the child. He called to him over and over again, but got no answer. So he went upon his road, and went on for a little while without meeting anything, until at last he came to a handsome boy. So he said to the boy, "What do you do here?" And the boy said, "I'm always learning. Come and learn with me." So he learned with that boy about Jupiter and Juno, and the Greeks and the Romans, and I don't know what, and learned more than I could tell, or he either, for he soon forgot a great deal of it. But they were not always learning. They had the merriest games that ever were played. They rode upon the river in summer, and skated on the ice in winter. They were active afoot, and active on horseback, at cricket, and all games, at ball, at prisoner's base, hare and hounds, follow my leader, and more sports than I can think of. Nobody could beat them. They had holidays, too, and 12th cakes, parties where they danced till midnight, and real theaters where they saw palaces of real gold and silver rise out of the real earth, and saw all the wonders of the world at once. As to friends, they had such dear friends, and so many of them, that I want the time to recount them up. They were all young, like the handsome boy, and were never to be strange to one another all their lives through. Still, one day, in the midst of all these pleasures, the traveler lost the boy as he had lost the child, and, after calling to him in vain, went on upon his journey. So he went on for a little while without seeing anything, until at last he came to a young man. So he said to the young man, "What do you do here?" And the young man said, "I am always in love. Come and love with me." So he went away with that young man, and presently they came to one of the prettiest girls that ever was seen, just like Fanny in the corner there, and she had eyes like Fanny, and hair like Fanny, and dimples like Fanny's, and she laughed and colored just as Fanny does while I am talking about her. So the young man fell in love directly, just as somebody I won't mention, the first time he came here, did with Fanny. Well, he was teased sometimes just as somebody used to be by Fanny, and they quarreled sometimes just as somebody and Fanny used to quarrel, and they made it up and sat in the dark and wrote letters every day, and never were happy asunder, and were always looking out for one another and pretending not to, and were engaged at Christmas time, and sat close to one another by the fire, and were going to be married very soon, all exactly like somebody I won't mention and Fanny. But the traveler lost them one day, as he had lost the rest of his friends, and after calling to them to come back, which they never did, went on upon his journey. So he went on for a little while without seeing anything, until at last he came to a middle-aged gentleman. So he said to the gentleman, "What are you doing here?" And his answer was, "I'm always busy. Come and be busy with me." So he began to be very busy with that gentleman, and they went on through the wood together. The whole journey was through a wood, only it had been open and green at first, like a wood in spring, and now began to be thick and dark, like a wood in summer. Some of the little trees that had come out earliest were even turning brown. The gentleman was not alone, but had a lady of about the same age with him, who was his wife, and they had children who were with them too. So they all went on together through the wood, cutting down the trees, and making a path through the branches and the fallen leaves, and carrying burdens, and working hard. Sometimes they came to a long green avenue that opened into deeper woods. Then they would hear a very little, distant voice crying, "Father, Father, I am another child. Stop for me." And presently they would see a very little figure, growing larger as it came along, running to join them. When it came up, they all crowded round it, and kissed and welcomed it, and then they all went on together. Sometimes they came to several avenues at once, and then they all stood still, and one of the children said, "Father, I am going to sea," and another said, "Father, I am going to India," and another, "Father, I am going to seek my fortune where I can," and another, "Father, I am going to heaven." So, with many tears at parting, they went, solitary, down those avenues, each child upon its way, and the child who went to heaven rose into the golden air and vanished. Whenever these partings happened, the traveler looked at the gentleman and saw him glance up at the sky above the trees, where the day was beginning to decline and the sunset to come on. He saw, too, that his hair was turning gray. But they never could rest long, for they had their journey to perform, and it was necessary for them to be always busy. At last there had been so many partings that there were no children left, and only the traveler, the gentleman, and the lady went upon their way in company. And now the wood was yellow, and now brown, and the leaves, even of the forest trees, began to fall. So they came to an avenue that was darker than the rest, and were pressing forward on their journey without looking down it when the lady stopped. "My husband," said the lady, "I am called." They listened, and they heard a voice a long way down the avenue say, "Mother, mother." It was the voice of the first child, who had said, "I am going to heaven." And the father said, "I pray not yet. The sunset is very near. I pray not yet." But the voice cried, "Mother, mother," without minding him, though his hair was now quite white and tears were on his face. Then the mother, who was already drawn into the shade of the dark avenue and moving away with her arms still round his neck, kissed him, said, "My dearest, I'm summoned, and I go." And she was gone, and the traveler and he were left alone together. And they went on and on together until they came to very near the end of the wood, so near that they could see the sunset shining red before them through the trees. Yet once more, while he broke his way among the branches, the traveler lost his friend. He called and called, but there was no reply, And when he passed out of the wood and saw the peaceful sun going down upon a wide purple prospect, he came to an old man sitting on a fallen tree. So he said to the old man, "What do you do here?" And the old man said with a calm smile, "I am always remembering. Come and remember with me." So the traveler sat down by the side of that old man, face to face with the serene sunset, and all his friends came softly back and stood around him. The beautiful child, the handsome boy, the young man in love, the father, mother, and children, every one of them was there, and he had lost nothing. So he loved them all, and was kind and forbearing with them all, and was always pleased to watch them all, and they all honored and loved him. And I think the traveler must be yourself, dear grandfather, because this is what you do to us and what we do to you.